In news from Jamaica, one local player in the local petroleum sector says the bad gas scandal has reinforced the need for proper regulations to govern the sector. President of the Jamaica Gasoline Retailers Association, JGRA, Leonard Green, believes the government may have taken the wrong approach in their attempt to solve the crisis. The Bureau of Standards Jamaica BSJ is adamant the bad gas scandal will be no more in a matter of days. Last week, BSJ Chairman Professor Winston Davidson noted that only 3 gas stations were under close scrutiny. 2 of those service stations are located in Kingston and the other in St. James. But despite that assurance, motorists are still skeptical while filling up at pumps, and there are still complaints from motorists that their vehicles are being impacted by the ongoing bad gas saga. One player in the local petroleum sector believes the impact of the crisis could have been mitigated if the government had investigated companies licensed to import petrol instead of targeting gas stations island-wide where there were complaints.
There are about 9 companies in Jamaica that are licensed to import bulk stock, with about 4 of them really importing the products that we're finding problems with, the 87 and 90. And then you further narrowed it down to find that in the last 60 days or so, only 2 companies had brought in any product. So my argument at the first meeting of the 21st, isn't it easier to go and check 2 facilities than to try and check 300 service stations where one of the tests is taking you up to 8 hours? So it would take months while the motorists remain exposed and while the problem just fester and gets worse.
President of the Gasoline Retailers Association, JGRA, Leonard Green, says the bad gas issue has reiterated the need for proper regulations to govern the local petroleum sector. The investigation conducted by the BSJ revealed that the contaminant found in E1090 and E1087 petrol is known as unwashed gum, a substance that builds up when there is an overconcentration of additives.
This is what is really causing the polymerization, the hardening up of this tar-like structure, and in some instances it oxidates and causes a kind of pelletization, so it looks like black pepper in some instances, depending on the type of fuel and the type of car and the heat that is generated in the chamber.
Mr. Green argues that while Petrojam has set a standard in applying additives to fuel, local distributors do not adhere to this.
So while Petrojam was and has been refining products with unwashed gum reading of 10 milligram per every 100 milliliter, nobody else seemed to be paying any attention to that. That was our local standard, and we probably are the Banana Republic, and we are using a standard that nobody else is using because it is too high and unachievable. That was their argument. And so, although the test came out with these high results, they could not make it public. And threats of lawsuit and all sorts of things started to dominate the decision.
Energy Minister Philip Paulwell has established a Petroleum Trade Reform Committee to undertake a comprehensive review of the sector. The private sector-led group is being chaired by business executive Mr. Noel Da Costa. The group has been asked to investigate the source of the bad gas, to review the regulations and protocols governing the petroleum trade, and to suggest recommendations to protect the integrity of the sector. The group will submit its first report to Minister Paulwell at the end of January. Mr. Green says the group is closer to unearthing the truth about the source of the bad gas.
I think we're closer to the truth because I've been asked to sit on the Petrol Trade Reform Committee. We have some information that I cannot share now because the committee is going to make a report in 2 weeks' time. But by just reasonable assumption, if you have 2 importers and you have one that is clear, and everybody is going to that importer now, by the way. Everybody is taking from Petrojam. it has isolated the other importer. And the other importer has some explanation to do.
Mr. Green was speaking at a Kiwanis Club function recently. Meanwhile, the JGRA president is optimistic that the report from the Petroleum Trade Reform Committee will be instrumental in improving the sector.
I believe that with the investigations that are ongoing, we will be able to find the truth. I'm not accepting the position of those who say we won't find the truth. I also am very confident that with the establishment of the Petrol Trade Reform Committee, we will see some changes because we know where the gaps are in the legislation. And as long as the government follows through with effecting the recommendations, we should not have this problem again. Because at every point, every link in the chain of custody, we will have quality assurance checks and we will have proper control mechanisms.
And Mr. Green confirmed that aside from local refinery Petrojam, French company Rubis imports oil into Jamaica. He explains that their products are sold to other stations. Green argues that Rubis has been fingered as one of the traders who might have sold contaminated petrol.
It was discovered that Rubis had imported product. And the fact is, Rubis also supplied other brands. By some arrangement, they sold to other brands. And so the fuel could have got into Total, it could have got into GB. What happened though is initially, when it was discovered on the 21st, all other brands pulled away. And say, you know what, we want to be safe. But they continued to sell to the trade from their stock. And this is a fact. And I'm at no risk of being sued, because this is a fact and public knowledge. Even by deduction, you can find this information that they imported the product, and you can also tell that Petrojam is now supplying the product, right? So the real tragedy for me is that the company did not just suspend the sale of their product till the investigations were over. They continued on the basis that they had not breached the law, and they wrote along that line because there was no upper level limit for the gum. It is since this episode that the Bureau of Standards has now put in a 35 milligram per 100 milliliter as an upper level. So I am praying, and I feel very comfortable that the problem will soon be over. But the damage to your vehicle, I can't tell you that there might not be residual damage. If performance is retarded now, it could cause other damage down the road, even if it's negligible and you don't pick it up now. But if it is underperforming, it could manifest itself down the road. That is the real tragedy.